Yo, what up, Internet? Welcome to Bricks and Beer, episode 77. That's right, it's a lot. Doing this for a long time. It's like 5 years now, which is fucking probably too long. It's crazy, right? It's delicious. Today's beer, wherever you're at, is the Workers Pale Ale from Walkabout Brewing Company. Southern Oregon, Medford, Oregon, established 1997. It might be when some of you guys were established. I'm old now. That feels like not that long ago. Apparently, it was a long time ago. So tonight's episode is gonna be a little different. It's gonna be a little weird. I'm putting a little more effort into this shit now. But before we even get into like what's going on with the episode, I gotta talk about this beer. It's delicious. My wife drove to Oregon, so she's the best. Shout out to you. Um, this is like one of the best beers I've had. I haven't gotten to go to an actual brewery in a long time. We've picked up a couple of beers, like, and they're pretty good. I've also been drinking like fairly shitty beers en masse. So it's really nice to get like a really fresh, really good beer. And this is probably the best beer I've had in the last like 6 months. So I guess that's saying something. Shout out to you guys at Walkabout. And then I guess we should talk about, this. It's back. Everything's back. As back to normal as normal can be right now. There's a lot of fucking terrible shit happening in the world, I feel like. So we're going to not talk about that. We're going to do the thing where we talk about toys and beer and have a good time and hopefully give you guys a little bit of like distraction from all the bullshit right now. So this one's going to be fun because I don't normally talk about this kind of stuff. We're going to talk about a work in progress, which is not complete. It's been around for a long time. Longer than I thought, actually. Like, I'm a weird person, dude. So I build things like, well, way ahead of schedule. Like, as soon as the idea hits me, it either does one of two things. It sits as a sketch in a drawer for like years and doesn't actually materialize, or I have to get the idea out of my brain and like get it going. And I've been talking about doing a project like this for a long time. And it's one of those things where like I finally was like all the things are aligned to like make this happen, right? So what we're going to talk about is I guess it's an art piece. It's a thing on a wall. I'm gonna do a different thing this time than normal. We're actually gonna like be semi-professional. I'm gonna show you things not on the phone. I know this is high-tech production value, but we're gonna try something different. So I'm gonna talk about like a couple of influential models, and then I'm gonna show you guys the process of actually how I've built this thing to where it is now. And then I'm gonna fucking jump onto a different camera and I'll show you the actual thing. So before we get into that, up here, right around there, for a couple of years, sat this set. This set is legit. I got this set via Daniel, our boy from Slovakia. It's the only modular set I own, and it's quite expensive. I would never buy this, but it's worth it if you guys drop that kind of money on Lego. So anyway, I was going to do my own version of this, and it involved this, which, see Al's little barber action there? This is the same scale as that. So this will make more sense. You'll see this shortly. Here's the secret. It's got a cage for the Brin gun. Lock, stock style. And so this was for this, which was going to be a Cyber City hard sci-fi version of this. That never happened. So obviously it's not there anymore. It's in here now. And this is the only thing that remains. But this will have new life, and we will talk about this now. Okay, so this is a little different, right? Normally I would have just like waved this piece of paper in your face in front of the camera, and the autofocus would have been terrible, and you wouldn't have been able to see what this is. So instead, we're going to do things a little higher production value than normal. So I'm going to basically show you a slideshow of how this thing has come together. It starts with this. This is how everything starts. It's a crazy idea that rattles around inside my brain, and then it needs to vomit itself out into some sort of tangible format, which always starts with a sketch, especially for the bigger projects. Not, you know, the little shit always just kind of like forms out of the brick, but the bigger stuff always needs a blueprint. So that's essentially what this is. I'm not going to go into detail about like all of it, but essentially the idea is that it's a big ass cyberpunk sci-fi city on a wall, and it's got levels. It's got 6 levels, and then, you know, some shit on top. And they go from really gross, the bottom level is called the toxic level, all the way up to the really nice level, which is the penthouse level, above the nice level. And there's a couple of, you know, commerce things, and each of these levels has their own unique flavor and feel to them, and they got different businesses that go with them. And, you know, it's tropes. It's all the things. It's Blade Runner. It's all the things, you know. So the big thing is, this is kind of like how my brain works, right? I need to organize, I need to get something out, and then I need to actually start building it out of Lego. So the bottom right part is the blueprint for how this thing is actually going to like engineer onto a wall. Is I need it to be basically a frame, and that frame needs to be stable enough to hold a bunch of Lego, and to have a bunch of stuff, and to have some depth. Essentially, because this is a wall unit, it's a mosaic of sorts. It's a deeper mosaic, but it's got some stuff sticks out from the wall. But I'm not trying to build the entire depth of all this stuff. I'm essentially trying to build a facade, and so all of that rests on the frame, and that's what's there at the bottom. And I'll talk about how all this actually comes together, and I'll show you some photos of that. But before we even get into that, we should talk about the history. 2011. Bricks by the Bay. Me and the Ronin Lug homies bring a whole bunch of shit. This is huge. This is like 15 feet long. It's massive. It's really the first collaborative project that I've ever really been a part of. It was mind-blowing. It's rad. We obviously took a lot of influence from Akira and, you know, various other cyberpunk inspirations. Used EL wire. This is the first time I really thought EL wire was used in a mock, at least to my knowledge. Here's a sort of like, you know, street level action shot. Super dense as fuck. There's some blurry Fradle. That gives you an idea of the scale. And then that also gives you an idea of the scale. There are me and all the kids. And look at that dude in the back. I think that's Dane's dad. He wasn't really down with it. You know, 2011, that came and went. It was rad. We won a bunch of awards. 2 years later, Brolug takes the concept, goes vertical. Vertical is key. Refines it. Uses the EL wire, I think, in a more restrained and, you know, actual really nice usage. Like everything we did, just a little nicer. And then, you know, 3 years later, the boy Sam Malberg shows up at BrickCon with this. And this is fucking amazing. This is the cyberpunk tripartite. It's not very big. It's tall, but it's very narrow. So it's got the verticality to it. And it's not very deep. It's 16, I believe, deep, which is not, or 32 deep, which is not huge. It's deeper than I wanted to go, but this was sort of this base plate for something that had been brewing in my mind, which was I wanted to make my own, and I wanted to take that thing from 2011, that huge collaborative giant dio, and condense that down into something that would be for me, and I could just have. So back to this. This is the blueprint. You can see I have a very high-tech highlighted the actual grid. So that's the blueprint. This is the footprint. So it's a Technic beam frame, and this gives you a general idea of the scale and the size of this fucking thing. And you also get to check out all my toys and shit. So it's pretty big. This wall space is actually a really weird part of the room for a number of reasons. One, you got to have it tall enough to where people don't smash their heads into the bottom of it, and it's just kind of a weird space in the room. It's a weird size, so I was like, fuck it, I'll build something my own. So this is the general frame. That was like the first thing that I sketched out, was just the size. And you notice that central column is essentially what's going to be a backbone for an elevator. So here it is. I'm developing the floors at this point. You can see there's the 6 sort of internal sections, and then there'll be a 7th one, that penthouse floor, sitting on top of this. So this is all just Technic. There it is standing up. Gives you an idea of the size, I guess. There's a beer for scale. Always beer for scale. And this will kind of give you an idea of the floors. Because it's Technic pins, the math isn't necessarily perfect in that every floor is exactly the same. But the majority of them are this height, which is what that little brick measurement thing is. And then here it is on the wall. It's starting to take a little bit more structural shape. The biggest thing with like a project of this size, and for what this is going to be, because ultimately it's going to stay on the wall. I'm not going to sort this immediately like I do most of my projects. Infrastructure is really key. So I wanted to have sort of like a framework, and then I could develop the individual businesses as I needed to and sort of make things fit. So you see that this little guy here, yeah, remember him? He's back. Also, there's a Moloch for scale. There it is with the greaves at the bottom. These are sort of like some macro greaves that are, just make it spacey, make it sort of floating. The idea too, because it's sitting on a wall, it's kind of a weird thing to where it has to really feel like it's floating. So I want it to feel industrial, like it could just be like sticking off the back of some floating city. Speaking of industrial, let's talk technology. Let's talk motors. Elevators are hard, yo. Big shout out to Morrow. Morrow had an elevator in his super awesome award-winning rocket, which is now in cinema history, I believe. So I talked to him, and I had this whole setup where I built a garage, and I figured that the garage would be a big empty space that I could stash this elevator mechanism in, including the switch box, like everything, hide everything. You pull open the elevator or the garage door, and then you could fuck around with the switch. But then I realized, like, this is a spacey cyberpunk industrial city. I can just leave the shit exposed. So that's what that is. Obviously on the left is the up and down control, and then you'll see my very not complicated setup. Difference between the top and the bottom is the top was the first one I built, and then I realized I needed to move the crank back. So I just geared it down. I also helped to gear it down a little bit, just mechanically. So there it is with that big garage that I talked about, and then the beginnings of the elevator shaft. It's a really simple mechanism, but holy fuck are they finicky. My suggestion, if you're ever going to build a Lego elevator, number one, why? Number two, leave a brick space entirely around the car, because even if you have it super smooth, there's going to be some chatter, and it has to go through this big tunnel. So speaking of chatter, like the yellow brick that's here, that yellow slope that's sitting on top of those gears, it's just because there's a little bit of sway in the car. And so when the car hits the bottom, that brick sort of knocks it into space, so that it lands exactly on those tiles in the footprint it should. There's a shot down the shaft. It's big. This thing's fucking big. You see my high-tech pulleys? And there it is with the elevator kind of more in place. I'm starting to fill in and placeholder things. You can see like the various building placeholders there. They're giving you an idea of the size. All the floors too are really like very square at this point, and I'm starting to fill in the bottom, the toxic layer. And then I'm starting to, at this point, build actual little shops. So this is kind of the first pass at like vending machines and food vendors and stuff. This was pre-Lego Dots. So my vending machines, I feel, are good, but they probably could be way better now. So I don't know, maybe I'll make some more. And here's like the beginnings of Strip Club. this I'll show you the actual strip club in more detail, but this is just kind of giving you a peek behind the curtain, if you will. The big thing with this is I want there to be doors and facades that you can remove that clip in, and it needs to have an attachment point, but not be super aggressive. So you got to be able to easily click this stuff in and out. So what it actually ends up being is that there's a clip that slides into this click hinge on either side. I'll show you one when I show you the actual model. That kind of works. There's the facade. These are Friends stickers, these ridiculous holographic dancer girls. Some High Voltage. It's the name of the strip club. It's good times. And then here it is with the second floor sort of filled in. And then the third floor is taking shape. Placeholders that are there. You'll notice the gray riggings for the railings up there at the top. Those are super square right now, and they look very, very square. I ended up rounding them off, which I think looks way, way better. And is actually shout out to Zach. He was the guy that really pushed me to not have it be so square at the top. You can see I'm kind of sketching out the penthouse level as well. Elevators. So elevator doors. So this is like a dumb thing to talk about, but it's kind of interesting. How do you do elevator doors for an elevator that goes up and down, and do you want them to open and close? Yeah, of course you do. I wanted like an actual mechanism that would open and close doors. There's no way I can do it in this footprint with this real estate, with like the density of things. So you just fake it. So these are all closed, except for obviously the open one. And then the way this works is that they just pop in and out. So these are the actual like facades in front of the elevator entryways. Those colored portions, these bits, will eventually be advertisements. And you can see like this was my original piece that had a much higher aspect ratio for the ad. I ended up going with these. This one, it's at the bottom, but it's a little more hidden. So it's not quite as obvious as it is in this photo. And then, you know, I started building this thing in November, and the homies came in January, so I made a fuck ton of progress. And they showed up, and they brought stuff, and they fixed things, and we got to collab on a thing, which is really cool. So shout out to Morrow. This is Morrow on a step ladder. What he's actually working on is a secondary elevator. It's a private lift that goes from the nice level to the top level, the penthouse level, because you can't take the main elevator all the way up. Because you can't have, you know, scum from the toxic level just getting a straight shot up. So there is Morrow with a crank. You can't see it. I'll show you the actual elevator. But this showcases some of the buildings that the homie showed up with. Whack Tees here is Zach's. And then there is a building for Jeff that goes in here. And Morrow also built a thing here. So I'll show you those when we take a look at the actual thing. This was a while ago, man. This was like January. And it was like, I'd pushed, I'd built for a number of months. I made great progress. And then a lot of shit happened, man. So I had to take everything out of this room. And then I had to put everything back in this room. And this was the last thing that I wanted to put back on the wall. And I wanted to fix a bunch of shit. So I took the opportunity while it was off the wall to do a number of things. You'll see here, here's the penthouse elevator. I've also rounded the railings at this point. Really kind of completed all the railings at this point. I wanted to have a number of things in place. Here's another shot of it at this point. And I had a lot of learnings at this point about how to build something like this, the way I'd want to build this if I were going to do it again. All of these bottom three floors are essentially fully built in. Like, they are solid as fuck. You can take the facades off of some of them, but the actual buildings themselves are fully in there, and it weighs a ton. And I was trying to, like, take this thing on and off the wall, and I was like, fuck, man, if I had just built slots where I could slide things in and out, it would reduce the actual weight of me maneuvering it onto a wall. And then I could kind of change things at will, and I wouldn't be so stuck once you get things in place. So I opted for the top three floors to do that, to just have things slide in and out on top of tiles, to not be fully built in. Because number one, they're not going anywhere. And number two, it's fine. It's fine. The other thing that I would do if I were going to redo this over again is that I would not just have this thing hang on the wall. I would build this on a shelf, and I would shroud that shelf so that this thing doesn't slowly melt off the wall. Because I encountered a bunch of things. Number one, before all these floors were fully built in, it started to bow because there was a bunch of weight on the bottom, and it was hanging from the top, and that weight from the bottom kind of naturally wanted to sag, so it started to bend out the back side, and it wasn't flush with the wall. Once I started building the rest of the floors in, I kind of fixed that problem because then it became one big solid beast. However, it's like the nature of the thing of having everything suspended from the top and hanging down. It really seemed like a bad idea. It seemed like it was slowly going to melt itself off over time, which sucks. So, start over. Not really. Close enough. Beer for scale. I bought a shelf. It's rated for 22 pounds. One side's directly into a stud, which is fucking awesome. The toggle bolts they sell with this shelf are ass. They are not deep enough to go through my fucking fancy drywall. Whatever. I ended up using like a way overkill toggle bolt. So it should hold more than 22 pounds. Which is good. Because I weighed the big fucking thing. And it weighs 18.5 pounds. Without the rest of the Lego on there. So it's clearly going to exceed the weight, but I'm fine with it because it's also screwed to the wall at the top. So it's on there for sure. So this is just kind of an idea of how you shroud the shelf. I specifically selected this shelf because it fit this footprint. Got these big ass tiles on the bottom because I still wanted to keep the greaves. I wanted to completely hide it and shroud it. Beer for scale. So there are the bottom greaves. There's kind of the connection point. You can see I'm going to tack things on the front there, and it'll hang off the bottom. And it looks pretty good, man. So that's it. That's kind of like all the documentation I have up to now. And we'll do the thing, and we'll jump to something else. And I just realized you guys can see me scrolling around like this because we're real fucking professional. So take it away, other Andrew.
All right, so it's the other Andrew. I'm here with the actual build, which I will show you guys. It's quite large. As you can see, I'm walking around the couch right now, hence why the camera work is super weird. But there it is on the shelf, attached at the top. You'll notice there's big ass fucking screws in the wall at both corners. So it's on there, man. This ain't going nowhere, and I'm not 100% settled on this greeblage for the shroud, so it's not baked in here all the way. So you can see there's my shelf. You can actually see it through the floor grating, which is kind of great. But dad jokes for the win. So we'll just kind of take a tour real quick, and you know. You'll check it out, and I'll keep working on it, and we'll go from there. So we'll start at the bottom. This is the quote-unquote toxic floor. Here's some hoodlums skating through. The garage, which is not empty. It opens up and has a car in it. Eventually there'll be like a Lego brick built background in there, but priorities. Battery box for the elevator, which is here. So you can see down. Ooh, fancy. Up. And it works pretty well. You kind of have to mess around with the positioning to get it just right. But all these doors, you know, open, as I said before. The way this actually works is that I could have had a stud here on the back that could have gone into those plates. But the clutch is a bit too much. I want these to be pretty easy to maneuver in and out, so you know, if I want to have the doors open at one of these higher floors, I can do so easily. And yeah, dude, let's just be real about this in general. I built a cyberpunk dollhouse. That's pretty much what this is. So it's got things that open up and whatnot. So here's like a shady medical facility. Pop this dude out. There you go. There's your surgery bot. everything in this world is you got to pay first. So there's always like, you know, the ATM on the door before you can get in. Here's this shady spot. This is my buddy Bob. He's watching TV, you know, because that's what he does. Here's that clip to the click hinge connection, which works really smooth. It's really nice because, you know, you want this stuff to stay in position but not be a total nightmare to take in and out. So that's the toxic level. Here's sort of like a scummy, dangerous level. It's got some fun stuff in it. Number 1 is the bar with, you know, Rats the bartender. Shout out to Morrow. Morrow added a lot of this ceiling detail in here while he was hanging out, including that lamp, which I absolutely adore. And then next to them is an unmarked garage. Well, it's marked, but, you know, let's say it's unmarked. And it has Hacker Bro. Hacker Bro is hacking away. I also kind of like, I want all of the infrastructure kind of like add-on stuff to make sense. Like all this stuff has kind of been bolted on over time. So there's a bunch of like cabling that's going to eventually run to the bottom side of this garage to make it feel like he's taking more power than he is. So over here's one of my more fun areas of the city. This is the strip club, High Voltage, named after the Eagles of death metal song. Yeah, it's pretty amazing. There's Gary, your resident DJ, ATMs galore. And these mirrors are from a like Disney princess mail-in thing that I drafted with the boys at Brahms' house. And I knew I had a plan, I just didn't know what it was, and that ended up working out perfectly. Here's a super shady rub and tug place. These are the new dots things up at the top, which are super cool. So pop this out, you know, you gotta pay before you get in. There's a curtain. There's some shady stuff going on in here. I don't know what's going on in there, but let's give them some privacy. So we'll put that back. And then up here, I got the exotic level. This is kind of the market level. This is one of my favorite levels. You know, I only have the 3 complete, but this sushi joint is Jeff's jam. He showed up with this, which is glorious. I think the signage for this fish is fucking rad, bro. Super rad. And then it's super dense. It's full of crazy fish manga nonsense, which is just lovely, man. And he opted to go with the snot connection, which is fine, especially because the way this is set up, it's really easy to get on and off because it's sitting on the half stud dots or whatever. There's a vending machine, like I said, pre-dots. Here's like a food vendor full of shawarma and tasty goodness. This does pop out. This one's actually kind of a pain to get in and out. Yeah, see, super smooth. And there you go, you know, little cockroach hanging out back there, because that's how you do. And I like including like some of this like internal greebly shit that nobody's ever gonna see. I mean, I guess if you pull these off, you see it. And then over here's a grocery store. Eventually these front cartons will be full of stuff, but they're not right now. City Food Market. And there's your homie. He's selling you the good stuff in the market. So that one's pretty fun. And then I got this cool little statue. There's an inspiration, a real life inspiration for this. So in Oakland, here in California, there was a dude and there was like a parking island across from where he lived and people were throwing trash in it. So he put a Buddha statue, and then like over the years it became like this revered sacred spot that people were really digging and made all nice. So I kind of wanted there to be a Robo representation of that. So there you go, Robo Buddha. Another vending machine. This one's like a kind of like a ticket lotto good time waste your money thing. And then around the corner here you can see we've got some cops. There's a little drone that comes in and out of here. There's a robot in the way. Come on, fucker, get out of the way. Live and uncut, people. I'm not doing that much editing. So yeah, here's a little drone. He's cool, right? Pew pew. Flies around. Watch out for Sasquatch. He's wanted. Oh, down here's the other side door to the bar with excellent Ninja Turtle graffiti piece. Most of this graffiti down here is the Space Place 3 set, so there's like a consistent stripe that goes across this floor. Let's go back up to, oh, here's like the other side of the strip club. Just some industrially greebly stuff. On this side, there's like this column that's running up and down to add to the greeblage as it goes all the way up, which is great. So then next floor up is also like another shopping district, but not quite as exotic. This is like shopping too. There's a little, you know, Cachao Francisco. Get your artificial burgers out of a machine. And then we got Whack Tees. This is the homie Zach's build. He showed up with this, which is pretty rad. You can see these are kind of more floaty. So there it is. Get your own t-shirt, custom, select it off a wall. Right, it jumps out of there. I love the idea, love the execution. It's great. Thanks, homie. And then here's City Pizza. This has a facade, but there's no real point in taking it off. There's an oven in there. You'll have to trust me. And then this is the boy Maro's build, which is a VR experience, which you open up and you can get in there and put all the stuff on. And check it out. Fucking lights. 9-volt lights. Super good. Super good. Which I love. Like, this is awesome. And then here's Angry Tacos. Get some tacos made by the robot. And then this is a barber shop that Zach made while he was here. The boys were here for, you know, like a week in the holidays. I'm literally climbing up on a thing. So this is pretty cool because it's got a different kind of reveal, which is that you can take this little section out. This will eventually be a sign with some stickers. And there's like a storeroom with a dude up there getting down. Down here's, you know, barber time. And then up here's all basically just empty, you know. I'm eventually going to do things on the penthouse floor. Here's sort of a sketch. There are some people in there doing fancy things. And then down here's a gun store that Maro also made, which is excellent. I could backlight this, but I'm really trying to stay away from lighting unless it's like self-contained. There's another police drone. I was going to put that dude on the other side, but I ran out of space. Which is kind of whack. There's a cool lady. The figs are obviously not fully done. Like, this thing will be smashed full of figs, you know, once it gets going. I do want to show you one thing, and then we'll fucking bounce back to the other thing. But here's the penthouse floor. So you have to come up to the nice floor via the main elevator. Make your way over here, where you're greeted by this dude who brings you champagne. And brings you to the penthouse floor, which will be awesome and have gardens and shit. It's kind of funny because like the nice stuff is like the thing that I'm least excited to build. I was more excited to build the grimy, you know, dirty parts of it, which I guess makes sense. So there it is. That's the work in progress. It's so fucking big that I have to show you a bunch of other bullshit, I guess. It's pretty rad, man. I'm pretty happy with this. It's been in progress for a long time, so it's kind of one of those things where you get burnt out and get frustrated. But now that I've put this on the wall successfully and like the infrastructure's basically there, I'm much more excited to do some stuff. So if you got ideas for what I should do at the top, you know, what's happening in the nice floors and shit, let me know. I'm actually really stoked with the thickness of this. I feel like this makes more sense than just the greaves hanging off like a flat shelf of very thin brick. Now it's got some chunkiness to it, which is cool. It gives it a fun, you know, feel overall. So that's my work in progress, and back to you, Andrew.
All right. So that was kind of cool, right? Way better than me fucking around, waving a thing in front of a camera, going like this. Look at, you can see all the details. Yeah, I don't know. I guess it's more work. I have some time right now, so you're welcome, internet. Let me know if you do prefer the bullshit in front of the camera, because it's way the fuck easier. But especially for this one, it's a little hard to show a thing that's this big that's stuck now on a wall. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed that. I'll finish it someday. I don't know. I'm not making any promises. I've got quite a bit to do, honestly, to like polish it off, and then it'll probably be one of those things that'll like never be finished. Like I'll fill it up, and I'll be like, well, maybe I could redo this part, or something. It's an organic living project, I suppose. So on that note, hopefully you guys are building. Last thing, fucking Discord parties blowing up. It's a good time. There's a link below. You can ask questions. You can hang out. There's a lot of bullshit. People are talking about food they're cooking and booze they're drinking and builds they're tinkering on, and it's a good time, man. It's a good time. So I encourage you, if you have any interest in interacting with this and people like me, because there's a fuck ton of people in there, hit it up. It's cool. It's open to everybody. So, it's a good time. On that note, be good to yourself. Be safe. Don't be an asshole. Do all the things you're supposed to do. And don't be a dick. Rule 0. Yeah, so thanks for watching, everybody. I will see you next time.